Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So today's video we're going to do a CPU cooler from a company called Montech. I've never heard of them before, but they reached out, sent me a CPU cooler, RGB, which is always nice. We're going to get it out, we're going to have a quick unboxing, we're going to install it onto a Ryzen 5 3600 and check out what the temperatures are like. I've already got a chart started for some of the other ones to compare the temperatures and just see how it works against other stock coolers that I've used in the past. So let's have a look, and here we go. Okay, so we're going to start our unboxings, but here's the first look at the product. Montech's the name of the company, and it is a Montech CPU cooler, air cooler 210, which is 210 watt TDP, addressable RGB, and it will work with all the different software manufacturers' motherboards. So let's get it out of the box and see what we got. There's lots in there. Very well packaged. And of course you start off with our little manual, how to install it and everything. We'll have a look at that a little bit more afterward. And we're going to have in here, I'm sure, is just the mounting hardware, which we'll continue on with after. And this is going to be our fan. Just experiences told me what all this is. And let's get that off. And we have our first look. It's big, but it looks really nice, actually. Let's have a better look. So let's get this all off. So it includes a screwdriver, a nice long screwdriver. There's only one other company that sent me something like this that had a nice long screwdriver to it, right? Which is always nice to have. So let's get this out of here. Here's the look on this cooler. It's pretty cool. I kind of like that symbol. This is a metal, it feels like. Yep. You have your fins, and you have 6 heat pipes. Is it 6? Yep, 6. And of course it's covered over here. And of course you take that off, put your thermal paste on, and we're going to mount using this hardware. Okay, so we got everything out of the box, and we can see everything that we're going to get. So as I thought, the bigger box, the cardboard box, has our fan, and the smaller one has all our mounting gear. And they even include thermal paste, which is always a nice touch. So with our fan, one thing I noticed right off the bat, so I'm just going to show you. Of course, it has your RGB. So it's addressable RGB. You can see that it's 3-pin. And on this end, we have our pin for our fan. So that'll go into where it says CPU fan, and that'll plug in, and of course this will probably light up. And it has the Montech symbol. Pretty straightforward. I like it. Nothing overly fancy, but I like it. What I do like more than anything else is the fact this comes included with it. So if for some reason, and this happens every now and then, you don't have addressable RGB, you can power it with SATA from your power supply, and you have a little controller, which is even labeled, which they don't all do. So it has mode, speed, and lighting. And it also has this little cap that goes on there, so you can use it from the inside of your case should you wish to do so. So something I wanted to show you is, because this is a sample that the company has sent me, it has on the top here, okay, it's got 2 screws. So there's 2 screws are right here. I took them out. Okay, so you've got 2 screws on the top. Okay, so this one goes to fasten the one on the other side here. All right, so that gets you down to here. Of course, this one's free and clear. And then when you turn it around, this one on the other side, when you go in, okay, is going to allow you to go in so you can tighten that screw. All right, so just keep that in mind. That is something that you're going to need to be aware of. All right, so one here and here. Very easy to put in and out, no problems there. And that helps you to mount it. We're going to do a complete installation, so don't worry about that. We'll show you everything. So I'm going to get into our little bag of goodies, and I'm going to separate them and show you all the different installation types. You've got Intel, AMD, and one of the 20 series, 2011 I believe it is. And I'll separate them all, show you which is which, and how it all goes on. And of course, then we'll go ahead, do the installation, and check the temps. So I want to do a little bit of interesting information, I'd like to say, on the cooler itself. So let's go over a few things. So a few things that it tells you about the product, of course, is, of course, with the size of it, it's got to have what I would think is going to be massive cooling capacity. And the beauty I like of it as well, already right off the bat, it has addressable RGB lighting, okay, that you can use either with the motherboard or just use the addressable RGB controller, which they've included right here. Features of fluid dynamic bearing, even at 100% PWM. So your fan on here, of course, is a PWM fan. Okay, so 4-pin, so you'll be able to control your speeds and everything for your fan. And of course, like I mentioned, it will support all modern Intel and AMD platforms. And of course, when you're looking at the size of this, some of the more important features are how big is it? So the size, it's 152.7 by 130 by 98.5 millimeters. Speed is anywhere from 6 to 1500, plus or minus 10% for the RPMs. Noise, like I said, is around 27 decibels. 73 CFM. Voltage is 12 volt, rated voltage. And the operating voltage range is anywhere from 10.8 to 13.2 volts. Lifetime is going to last you about 60,000 hours. Your fan connectors, of course, are your 4-pin PWM and 3-pin addressable RGB, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so I just quickly want to show you some of the differences. So you're going to have your spacers here. These 4 are going to be shared regardless of how you go ahead and mount it. These are for your AM4. You're going to use your backplate. This is for your Intel. And depending on whether you're doing 2011 or 2066, whether you use one of these or the other one, and that's pretty much the way it breaks down. And you can also use these depending on whether it's an Intel install as well. And of course, you will use the Intel brackets as well. So this is AM4 and Intel. Of course, you have your pen supports for your bracket, for your fans to secure them in place. That's pretty much as best I can do without making separate piles and separating them for each different one. Now there's a lot more involved than just that, but we're going to install it. I'm going to use it for an AM4 motherboard, so AMD, and we'll go ahead and do the installation, and I'll walk you through every step. Okay, so I wanted to show you everything that you're going to need for an AM4 install on your motherboard. So you've got your CPU cooler, you've got your fan, the brackets to hold your fan in place. You've got your spacers, your 2 brackets for the motherboard, screws to hold it on. These 2 are going on the top in these 2 holes, and of course your screwdriver. Okay, that's the only thing you're going to need. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, when you look at the diagram even, so it doesn't explain the back plate. So at first I thought that the back plate you would need would be this one. But this is only if you're doing an Intel install. You don't need that. You're going to use the back plate you already have on an AM4 motherboard. You first have to take the little brackets on the top of the motherboard off and then use those brackets on the back. When we do the installation, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see how it goes on, everything like that. So let's get on to the install. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is remove our stock cooler. So we got 4 screws, 2 here and 2 on the other side. Okay, so 1 here and then one tucked away over here. Can't really see that one too much. So basically take those off, and I'm going to show you a little something that I do to try and be careful not to pull the CPU out. Because if you just take those out and just pull it up, you're probably going to yank the CPU out of the socket with you. So there are a couple steps you can do to prevent that, and I'm going to show you what those are. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take it off, and the first thing you do, of course, is undo your CPU fan. So take that off where it says CPU fan, just undo it. That's the first step, and then of course unscrewing these. So I always brace it with my hand here just to keep it from moving, because I usually have a lazy Susan. So I'm just going to turn that. You hear it undoing. And I do the same thing when I take it off as when I put it on. I go diagonal. Not know if that makes any difference at all, but that's just my process. Keep in mind there's a back plate on here, which is what these screws went into. So when you take it off, it's going to drop. So because I have it on a test bench, I'll be able to reach in and grab it, and that's no problem. And I'm going to show that to you because it's part of the installation process for the new CPU cooler. Here's the thing. If you pull that right up, you're probably going to take the CPU along with it. So just make sure the motherboard is not going to move, and you're going to twist it ever so little. So this feels like it's not loose, but it is because everything has come out and the back plate fell down. It's because the thermal paste between your CPU cooler, the stock cooler, is holding it on. So that's why you want to just kind of twist it just ever a little bit. Okay, just very gently, and there, see? Now it pulls off, you can see the spread, and you can see the spread on here. So the two of them combined, we were getting a pretty good coverage. So we're going to have to clean this off, and I'll do the stock cooler too, just in case I want to use it again. And our back plate is going to be used. So normally you'd have brackets on here on your motherboard. You'd have two, one here and one on this side. You're not going to use this with this installation. So just so you're aware of that. So our back plate is right here. So now you can see where the 4 screws are going to hold everything in place. So in the corners here. So we're going to put that back up once I clean everything off. And it's going to come up through these holes. And that's where this bracket is going to come into play. Okay, so we're going to take the bracket. We have to line it up with, so it's for the AM4. So in the corners. And we are going to fasten it down using our screws and our bracers. But I'll show you all that. We'll come back here in a minute once I've magically cleaned everything. Okay, so the thermal paste is all cleaned off. And I have our backplate in there. What I wanted to show you is a way that I do it. I put the backplate up. I secured it with one screw here. So this corner here, okay, you see how there's 2 pieces? You want the screw to go down through this one here. Okay, you're going to line it up with your spacer and your backplate. So you're going to have to line that up with this one here. Tighten it down. Then go back over here and do it on that side. Now, one of the things I want to show you is the bracket. Your bracket is going to be like this, okay? So it's curved up, and the reason for that is you want to have the underneath of it, it'll show like this, okay? So it's going to go down there. So you're going to have it facing this direction, all right? So like that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tighten this down on both sides, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And it's going to be a pretty easy installation, actually. But the most important thing is going to be when we do our temperatures. Okay, so I'm just holding that in place. And if you have your finger over the back plate like I do, you'll feel that it actually go down. So I'm just going to secure that. And now I'm going to tighten this one down. And now the other one's going to be a little easier because this is holding it in place. So again, okay, so that's in place. The only thing we have left now, apply our thermal paste. And then we're going to put on our CPU cooler. So I am going to dry fit it, which is something I like to do before I put my thermal paste on, just to see how it's going to fit. One thing I do know is I want it to face this way, I do believe. So I'm just going to set it into, see these here? They're going to go into these screw holes. And if your eyesight is better than mine, this won't be a problem. All right, so how's that work? Okay, so we have got some clearance for our memory here, but I want to see if I put it the other way, if I have even more. So let's give that a try. So I fit the CPU cooler on here, just dry fit it to see how it's going to fit. I'm going to try it the other way, so I want to see which way gives the best RAM clearance. So again, just put it over the hole there, and put that there. And yeah, so even with the fan, that's going to give, I do believe, more room. So we're going to try that. Let's put our fan up here and just have a look. So with our fan on, yeah, so you can see there's a lot more clearance there. So that's the way it's going to go. So if there's any doubt, when you're looking at it, this curved end goes towards your memory. All right, so where it curves, face that this way, so towards your memory. So the only thing I got left to do, take this off, put on our thermal paste. Okay, so mine came with this piece on it, but I don't think it is supposed to. So you got a little screw here, goes through this hole, and when you look at your CPU cooler, all right, you want to fit that in. It's going to kind of go in at a bit of an angle. It's going to drop down into the slot. Then you're just going to have to line it up and put the screw in. So we're going to apply our thermal grease, and then we're going to put on our cooler. So here we go. Okay, so I am going to apply, I like to do the little X method. So just put, oh, that's coming out real fast. All right, and like that. It works for me. Gives a good spread. How you choose to do it is up to you. Some people like the P method. Really doesn't make much difference. They all work. Don't forget to take this off. Okay, peel that off. All right. Like I said, line that up, going toward your memory. Fit it into these holes, and then you're just going to tighten it down. The only thing left now, fits are pretty good. You can see all kinds of clearance for your memory. So this is your first bank right here, and you still got space. So you've got two things left. Two things. You've got your CPU fan, and you got your RGB. So it's 4-pin, okay, PWM. So find where your CPU fan is at here. There's a little tab. Line that tab up with on here, and it's just going to go down. So like that. That's all it is for your CPU fan. For your RGB, you've got a couple different methods. You can use your controller. Remember I mentioned that, where this comes off. You could plug that in, plug this into your power supply and control it that way. Or if you're like me and you have the RGB on the motherboard, so this is a 3-pin, okay? So 3-pin, 5-volt addressable RGB. And when you look on it, you got a little arrow here. Okay, so you want to line that up with where it says 5 volt. I'm going to show you that in a second, but it can only really go in one way. You got 2 pins, you got 1 pin. Okay, so let's look on our motherboard, find out where it is, and we're going to plug it in. Okay, so J Rainbow 2, because I believe on this motherboard it has 2 adjustable RGB as well as 2 RGB. So you can see it's got 2 pins here and 1 here. So line those up, and your arrow is going to go here because that's where the 5 volt is. All right, so line it up here, and it just pushes down. So just be careful. You don't want to bend those. If you bend them, well, now you got a problem. Now you're going to need to use a controller. So see, that's why that's there. Just in case you make a mistake, it's got a backup already built into this system for you. So that's it. So I'm going to zoom back out. And there's our system all put together. All right. That is an impressive looking CPU cooler. I really dig it. I really dig it, man. Isn't that cool? All right. I think that's going to work exceptionally well, but until we test it, we won't know. Everything's hooked up. We're going to power it up. We're going to have a look at the RGB. Now, it will use your motherboard's software RGB. Just keep that in mind, unless you use the controller. Okay? So I could use the controller and show you the colors. I prefer to do it the other way. We'll see how it happens. But let's get it hooked up first and see what our temperatures are. So I quickly wanted to show you the colors. It looks pretty good. I don't have any software hooked up yet. I'll do that after. But I did want to quickly point out the temperatures it's getting. Keep in mind this is an air cooler. And our temperature right here fluctuates between 24 and 30 degrees. Okay, so we're past the 5-minute mark, which I always find to be a pretty good standard to test by. I hit 85 once and then it dropped, stays somewhere in the 80s for a bit, and it tends to drop down to 74, 78, thereabouts. So not bad, not bad at all. So let's get on and show you the chart, show you some of the past performances between stock coolers and this cooler and other coolers I've used in the past to see how this compares with some of the other ones. Hi everybody, so you've seen the comparisons of different stock coolers with different CPU coolers, and you've seen the one from Montech. So hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So they've sent me the CPU cooler. We saw the testing, seen how it works, and we have a comparison of where it places. And I'll have a link in the description, so if you want to go get one, you can certainly do that. And yeah, so if you like the video, hit that like. You know what to do. Leave me a comment if you have anything, if you have a question or whatever. And hit that bell for notifications so you see future videos as they come up. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. And if you have any questions at all, please drop them. Let me know. Take care.